The metal door was older than time, or so it seemed. Covered in strange glowing symbols, it stretched high into the darkness, like a wall made for giants. The air was cold, dry, and heavy with silence. For centuries, no one had dared to touch it, but Elias Kane was not like most people. He stood before the massive door, his gloved hand resting on the rough surface. His breath echoed inside his helmet, loud and sharp. Behind him, a soft voice trembled in fear. "Stop. Please, Elias," Lyra whispered. He turned to look at her. She was Sarai tall, with silver-blue skin that shimmered under the faint glow of her suit. Her large black eyes were wide with terror. Even in fear, there was something graceful about her movements, like water flowing. "You don't understand," she said, stepping closer. "That door is not just a wall. It is a prison. It is a warning. My people swore never to open it." Elias studied her face. He had seen that look before, not just fear, but deep, soul-crushing dread. "A warning or a secret your people wanted to keep?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. "This is not a secret." She shouted, her voice cracking. "It's death. Everything we survived was to keep that thing inside. It will kill us all if you wake it." Her words hung in the air, heavy like the dust around them. The chamber was massive, carved into the black stone of an alien mountain. Strange pillars rose from the ground like broken bones. In the center, the door pulsed faintly, like a dying heart still clinging to life. Elias turned back to the door. "If what's inside is so dangerous," he said quietly, "then maybe. It's exactly what we need." Lyra stared at him, shocked. "Need? For what?" "For the war," Elias said simply. His voice had a steel edge. "Earth is dying, Lyra. Our fleets are losing. Every day, more systems fall. The Dominion is crushing us. If there's something in here powerful enough to scare your people for centuries, then maybe it can turn the tide." Lyra shook her head violently, her silver hair whipping in the stale air. "You don't understand what you're saying. Power like this doesn't save, it consumes. My ancestors believed this chamber was the end of everything." Elias gave a bitter smile. "And yet, they didn't destroy it." She froze. He was right. They locked it away, but why not destroy it? Unless they couldn't. The thought made her skin crawl. "Elias," she whispered, voice breaking. "Please, if you open that door, I can't protect you." "No one can." He looked at her for a long moment. For the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. He wasn't a cruel man. He didn't want to hurt her. But Earth, his home, was burning. And this might be the only chance. "I'm sorry, Lyra," he said softly. "I have to try." Before she could move, Elias placed his palm against the center of the door. The symbols blazed to life. The ground shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling like rain. A deep hum filled the air, so low it rattled inside their bones. Lyra fell to her knees, clutching her head as the symbols grew brighter hot white light spilling into the dark chamber. "No," she gasped. "It's waking." Elias stumbled back as the door began to split down the middle with a thunderous crack. A rush of freezing air poured out, carrying a smell that wasn't just old. It was wrong, like something dead yet still moving. The light inside was blinding, piercing through the darkness like a blade. Then came the sound, not a roar, not a scream. A whisper that didn't come from the air, but from inside their minds. "Who breaks the seal?" Elias froze. His breath caught in his throat. He hadn't spoken, but the voice was inside him, crawling like cold water through his veins. Lyra let out a broken sob. Her entire body shook as she whispered, "It knows your name?" Elias spun to her. "What did you say?" Her lips trembled. knows you. And then, before he could speak, the door yawned open. Darkness spilled out like liquid shadow, thick and alive. The hum grew louder, pounding like a heartbeat from deep inside the mountain. Strange lights danced in the fog, twisting like serpents. Elias took a step forward before he even realized it. Something was calling him, pulling him toward the black void beyond the door. Elias? Lyra screamed, her voice raw with terror. Don't go in. He turned his head just for a second and saw her tears glowing in the chamber light. Her face wasn't just afraid, it was broken. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid for him. Elias swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his choice crash down on him. He stepped across the threshold. The darkness swallowed them both, and then the door slammed shut with a sound like the world-ending ... the darkness. Wasn't empty. It breathed. Elias felt it first, a slow, deep pull, like the air itself was alive and watching. His visor fogged as he stepped further in, boots sinking into the soft black floor that rippled like water. Behind him, Lyra stumbled, clutching his arm, her voice trembling. Elias, please. Stop. We shouldn't be here. He didn't answer. Not because he ignored her, but because he couldn't speak. The air pressed down on his chest like a giant hand, making every breath a battle. The light from his suit barely touched the darkness. It was too thick, too heavy. And then the voice came again. The seal is broken. It wasn't sound. It didn't echo in the chamber. It slammed straight into his skull, like a thought that wasn't his own. His heart lurched, pounding so hard he thought it would burst. He spun, searching for a source, but there was nothing. Just black, endless black. Lyra screamed. Elias whipped around and saw her on her knees, hands clutching her head. Her silver hair spread across the dark floor like liquid light. She shook violently, her mouth open in a silent cry. Lyra. Elias dropped beside her, grabbing her shoulders. What's happening? She lifted her head slowly, tears streaming down her glowing cheeks. Her voice cracked, raw with pain. It's speaking to both of us, but to me, it's showing things. Elias gripped her tighter. What things? Her lips trembled. Worlds burning, oceans of blood, stars falling. Elias, this thing, she broke off, choking on a sob. It's not alive like us. It's hunger wearing a shape. The voice returned, stronger this time, like 1,000 whispers pressed into one. You have come to offer. The ground shuddered violently, throwing Elias onto his back. From the center of the black floor, something began to rise slowly, silently. At first, it looked like a jagged spire of stone, dripping with liquid darkness. But then, it twisted, reshaping, glowing from within. A black obelisk. Floating in the air. It pulsed with a faint blue light, like a heartbeat struggling to live. Elias crawled to his feet, breathing hard. His hands shook as he raised his rifle, but deep inside, he knew a gun wouldn't matter here. The obelisk hovered higher, rotating slowly, its surface covered in strange glyphs that crawled like living veins. And then the whispers formed into words. One will die. One will live. Choose. The voice was in him, inside his bones, his blood. Elias staggered, clutching his head. What the hell does that mean? Lyra's scream answered him. She collapsed completely, curling into herself. No, no, no. No, I know this, she sobbed. The sleeper. This is the sleeper. It chooses every time. One survives, one dies. That's how it wakes. Elias stared at her, horror washing over him. You knew this might happen? She shook her head wildly, tears flying. I didn't know it'd wake. The stories. They were just myths. I thought the locks would hold forever. The obelisk pulsed brighter, the blue light slicing through. The darkness. The symbols on its surface rearranged themselves into shapes Elias almost recognized, like twisted versions of human letters. They seemed to burn into his eyes. Choose or both. Perish. The voice was colder now, sharp as broken glass. Elias gritted his teeth, forcing his mind to clear. His instincts screamed at him to grab Lyra and run, but the chamber door was gone. There was only blackness behind them, endless and absolute. No, Elias growled, his voice hoarse. I'm not playing your game. The obelisk tilted, as if amused. You will play, because you came, because you woke me. The floor rippled again, like liquid stirred by an unseen force. Lyra clung to Elias, her fingers digging into his sleeve. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Please, don't let it take me." Elias swallowed hard. He could feel her shaking, not just from fear, but something deeper, something primal. This wasn't the same calm, elegant alien who had guided him through deserts and storms. This was someone shattered to her core dot, and then the obelisk split open, with a sound like shattering glass. It cracked down the center, glowing brighter than a dying star. From inside stepped a figure tall, impossibly tall, its skin shimmering like molten silver, its face hidden behind a mask of light. Eyes like twin suns burned holes into the air dot. It spoke again, but this time the words were clear. Not in his head. Out loud. Choose. Now. The sound wasn't a voice. It was thunder-wearing language. The force of it drove Elias to his knees. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to rise. His hands curled into fists. He looked at Lyra, then at the towering figure dot, and for the first time in his life, Elias Kane felt something he had never known. Before not fear, anger, something far worse. He felt small. The figure raised a hand, and the floor collapsed. The world tilted. Darkness swallowed everything. Elias and Lyra screamed as they plunged into a yawning pit of blue light and black stone. When Elias opened his eyes, he was lying on cold, glowing ground, and above him stretched a city of ruins that never ended. Asterisk. Elias's stomach twisted as he dropped through a tunnel of blue light and black mist. The roar of collapsing stone faded into silence, replaced by a low hum that vibrated through his bones. His helmet lights flickered wildly before shutting off completely. Then dash impact. He slammed into a hard surface and rolled, his breath knocked out of him. Pain shot through his body like fire. For a moment, everything was spinning. He sucked in air, tasting metal and dust. Lyra. He gasped, forcing his eyes open. A faint glow shimmered in the darkness ahead. Lyra lay sprawled on the ground, her silver hair spread like liquid light across the black stone. She groaned softly, clutching her side. Elias crawled to her. You? Alive? Her eyes fluttered open, wide and terrified. Yes, she whispered, voice shaking. But where are we? Elias looked around. And froze. They weren't in a chamber anymore. They were in a city buried in the dark. Endless towers of jagged black stone loomed above, each pulsing faintly with blue veins of light, like blood in glass. Bridges stretched across chasms that had no bottom. The air was cold, heavy, and filled with whispers that weren't words, but thoughts brushing against his mind. This isn't possible, Lyra said, trembling as she rose to her knees. This place, it shouldn't exist. Elias stared at her. You knew about the chamber. Did you know about this? She shook her head violently. No, the stories spoke of a prison, not this. Her eyes glimmered with tears. Elias, my people thought the sleeper was a god because it destroyed everything once. But this is older than gods. Before Elias could answer, The hum grew louder. Blue light spilled from the cracks in the ground, racing like veins. Toward the center of the city, there on a massive platform of black stone, it stood. A figure not the same one from the obelisk. But here, in the open, it was even more terrifying. It towered 3 times Elias's height, its form shifting like smoke and steel. Its face was a mask of blinding light, and its eyes twin stars burning with cold fury fixed on him. Lyra collapsed to her knees, bowing low. "Please," she whispered, voice breaking. "We didn't mean to wake you." The figure tilted its head slowly, like a predator studying prey. Then it spoke. "You came willingly. You woke the seal. You will pay the price." Its voice was not sounded, was weight, crashing into their skulls like waves. Elias gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stand. "We didn't come to worship you," he said, voice hoarse but steady. "I came for answers." "For help." The figure's eyes flared brighter. "Help? Is that what you call it? When a child plays with fire and burns the world?" Elias stepped forward, his boots echoing. "On the stone. Call it what you want. My people are dying. If you're so powerful, you can stop it." Lyra grabbed his arm, terrified. "Elias, don't." The being raised a hand. The ground trembled, cracking like glass. Blue fire shot up around them, swirling like a storm. The heat seared Elias's skin through his suit. He shielded Lyra with his body as the voice roared again. "One will die. One will live. Choose." Elias froze. The words hit like a blade. His breath caught as he looked at Lyra, her wide, terrified eyes staring back at him, her lips trembling. "No," she whispered. "Please, don't make him do this." Elias turned back to the being, fury boiling in his chest. "What kind of choice is that?" The figure's mask tilted, almost like a smile. "The kind that forges destiny. Obedience brings life. Defiance brings death." Blue chains of light shot from the ground, coiling around Elias's arms and legs, dragging him to his knees. Pain exploded through his body, white-hot and endless. He roared in agony, his voice echoing through the endless city. "Elias!" Lyra screamed, crawling toward him only for more chains to lash around her, pinning her down. She sobbed, tears glowing on her cheeks. "Please, stop. Stop hurting him." The being stepped closer, its shadow falling over them like a living night. "One must die for the seal to break completely. One will become mine. Choose human." Elias gritted his teeth so hard his jaw ached. His body shook, his muscles screaming, but he forced his head up to glare at the monster. "I don't care what you are," he spat. "I'm not killing her." The light flared brighter, almost blinding. "Then both die." The ground cracked wide beneath them. A vortex of darkness yawned open, pulling everything toward its center. Lyra screamed as her fingers slipped against the stone. Elias lunged, grabbing her hand with a strength he didn't know he had. "I'm not letting go." He roared, his voice raw. "Do you hear me? I'm not choosing because we both live, or I burn your whole world down." The being paused dot, and then slowly it lowered its hand. The vortex snapped shut. The chains dissolved. Elias collapsed, gasping, his body shaking from pain. Lyra clung to him, sobbing into his chest. For a long moment, there was only silence broken by the sound of her desperate breaths. Then the being spoke again. "You are different." Elias raised his head, sweat dripping down his face. "Damn right I am," he rasped. The being turned, its voice echoing like thunder fading into storm. "Very well. Then you shall see what comes next." The ground beneath them glowed and shattered. They fell again, deeper into the darkness. Asterisk. Impact knocked the breath from his lungs. He rolled onto his back, gasping, the cold stone biting into his skin through the suit. For a few moments, there was only silence, and then the whispers began again. Not words, thoughts, compass, restless thoughts scratching against his mind like nails on glass. Elias. Lyra's voice was faint. She lay a few feet away, her silver hair glowing softly in the dark. Her body trembled as she struggled to sit up. Where are we now? Elias pushed himself up slowly, ignoring the sharp pain in his ribs. His helmet lights flickered on, revealing a sight that stole his breath. The city was endless. Black towers clawed toward a sky that wasn't sky at all, but a swirling ocean of blue and violet mist. Bridges of stone stretched across impossible heights, leading to spires that defied gravity. Glowing veins of light pulsed in the walls like rivers of blood. Some structures hung upside down, suspended in midair, as if the laws of nature had broken long ago. And everywhere silence. It wasn't empty, though. Elias could feel it in his bones. This place was alive. What is this? He whispered. Lyra single quotes S. Voice trembled. This is no city of the Sarai. This is older than us, older than anyone. She rose unsteadily, hugging herself. Her black eyes reflected the blue glow like pools of ink. I was wrong, Elias. My people never built the chamber. We found it, and we feared what slept beneath. Her voice cracked. This isn't a prison. It's a graveyard. Elias looked closer at the structures. His stomach turned cold. They weren't just towers. They were statues. Thousands of them, rising like monuments to forgotten gods. Each one was shaped like an alien creature he didn't recognize. Beasts, warriors, beings of light and shadow. And at the base of every statue were bones. Mountains of bones, white and sharp, glowing faintly in the dark. Elias crouched near the nearest pile. His heart skipped when he saw the shape of a skull. It wasn't Serai. It wasn't alien. It was human. What the hell? His voice broke into a whisper. Humans were never here. Lyra knelt beside him, her hands shaking as she touched one of the skulls. Her breath hitched. This shouldn't be possible. These bones, they're older than my species. Elias stared at her, the weight of her words crushing him. Older than you? Lyra, that's... He stopped when he felt it. The hum, again, low, deep, like the heartbeat of something vast and sleeping. The ground shook, and blue light erupted from the cracks in the floor, racing like lightning toward the center of the city. The glow grew brighter, swallowing the darkness. Elias shielded his eyes as a massive platform of black stone rose from the abyss ahead, and standing upon it was the figure, the sleeper. Its towering body pulsed with blue fire now, its mask of light blazing like a newborn star. Shadows swirled around its limbs like living chains. When it spoke, the air itself seemed to shatter. You fall, but you do not break. Good. Elias gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stand despite the tremor in his legs. What do you want from us? He shouted. Why bring us here? The voice thundered inside his head. To teach, to shape, to decide if your kind deserves to exist. Lyra collapsed to her knees again, shaking violently. Please, she begged, her voice raw. We are nothing to you. Let us go. The being's mask tilted slowly, like a predator amused by its prey. You are nothing, yet this one resists. Its glowing eyes locked on Elias. This one defies. Elias clenched his fists. You're damn right I do. I'm not here to play your games. You said choice fine. My choice is we. Both live. For a moment, silence fell. Then the figure raised its hand. The ground split open around them, revealing vast pits where rivers of blue energy churned like liquid lightning. From those pits, shapes began to crawl dark, writhing forms that dripped. Like ink and glowed with burning eyes, Lyra screamed. Elias stepped in front of her, his rifle snapping up as the first of the creatures lunged from the pit. Its body was long and twisted, its mouth a gaping spiral of teeth. Elias fired 3 plasma bursts. The shots tore through the beast's chest, but the holes sealed instantly, the creature roaring without pain. "What the hell are these things?" Elias shouted, firing again and again. Lyra's voice broke in terror. "Shadows. They serve the sleeper. They can't be killed." The ground shook harder as more shapes crawled from the depths, their claws scraping against the black stone. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. The air burned with the sound of their screeches. The figure's voice rolled like thunder. Obedience brings survival. Defiance brings extinction. The swarm leaped as one. Elias braced himself, pulling Lyra close. His rifle roared, plasma bolts lighting up the darkness like fire. But 4. Every shadow he blasted, 3 more came. "Run!" Elias roared, dragging Lyra across the crumbling floor. Behind them, the city shook like a beast waking from a long, angry sleep. Towers split and fell. Bridges shattered. Lyra clutched his arm, sobbing. There's nowhere to run. And she was right, because ahead of them, rising from the darkness, was something worse than the swarm. A heart. A massive, glowing heart of crystal, pulsing like a living brain beating with light, with power. So great it burned the air. The voice filled the world. Survival is obedience. Take the gift or die. Elias stared at the heart, feeling its heat crawl under his skin, and then the floor cracked wide beneath them. They fell again into the light. Elias hit the ground rolling, his body screaming with pain. His rifle clattered away into the shadows. He groaned, forcing himself up on shaking arms, and froze when he saw where they had landed. The heart. It was enormous, suspended above them like a living jewel, its surface glowing with rivers of blue light. Each pulse was a heartbeat that shook the air, a rhythm that made Elias's chest tighten. The heat radiating from it wasn't fire. It was energy, raw and alive, crawling under his skin like static electricity. Lyra stumbled beside him, clutching her side. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the blue light, her black eyes wide with terror. "No, no, no," she whispered, backing away. "This is the heart chamber. It's where the sleeper feeds." Elias turned to her sharply. "Feeds on what?" "Her." Voice cracked. "On life, on will, on everything you are." The hum deepened, rolling through the ground like thunder. Elias spun and saw them. The shadows. Dozens of them sliding down the walls like rivers of black fire, their burning eyes fixed on him and Lara, their bodies twisted and hissed, dripping darkness that ate into the stone. "Get behind me," Elias growled, his voice hard as steel. Lyra hesitated, her hands shaking. "Elias, you can't fight them. You saw what happened. They can't be killed." He didn't care. He wasn't dying on his knees. Elias grabbed his fallen rifle, snapping it up just as the first shadow lunged. His plasma shots tore through, its chest in a storm of light, scattering pieces of black slime across the floor. But before he could take a breath, the creature reformed, shrieking with hunger. Damn it. Elias fired again, teeth gritted, backing toward the wall. The air burned with plasma bursts, the smell of scorched stone filling his helmet. Shadows leaped from every side, their claws slashing through the air like blades. Then he heard Lyra scream. He spun, and his heart nearly stopped. One of the shadows had her pinned, its fanged maw inches from her face. Without thinking, Elias charged, slamming into the creature with his full weight. They hit the ground hard. Black liquid splashed his visor as the thing twisted under him. Like a snake, it roared, But Elias didn't stop. He jammed his plasma rifle under its skull and fired point blank. The blast ripped it apart in a burst of blue fire, scattering its pieces into smoke. For a second, it was gone. Then the ground shook again. They were surrounded. The swarm closed in, their screeches rising like a storm. Elias's rifle hissed empty. "Elias!" Lyra cried, terror raw in her voice. He looked at her and saw the truth in her eyes. She was terrified, but not for herself. For him, something inside Elias hardened. He tossed the rifle aside and grabbed a jagged shard of stone from the ground, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "If they want me," he growled, "they'll have to take me fighting." A first shadow lunged and then light exploded. Elias froze, blinded by a sudden flash of white-blue fire. The shadows shrieked as a wave of energy tore through the chamber, ripping them apart like smoke in a storm. The light burned the air, driving the darkness back into the cracks of the walls. Elias could see again. He turned and stared in shock. Lyra stood at the center of the blast, her body trembling, her arms raised. In her hands glowed a sphere smooth in silver, covered in flowing Siri glyphs that burned with holy light. "What the hell?" Elias breathed. Lyra's voice was a whisper, weak and shaking. "An artifact from my people. I swore I'd never use it. It was meant to seal this place forever." She dropped to her knees, the sphere rolling from her hands, its glow fading. Elias rushed to her, catching her before she fell completely. "Lyra, hey, stay with me." Her breathing was shallow, her silver skin pale as frost. "I broke my oath for you." Her black eyes met his, filled with something raw and unspoken. "Because you didn't let me die?" Elias held her close, his jaw tight. "I'm not letting you die either. Not now, not ever." Above them, the heart pulsed harder, like it was angry. The hum grew louder, shaking the ground. Cracks split the floor as streams of blue energy poured out like molten fire. Then the voice came. "You resist? Even when death is certain. This is why you are chosen." Elias glared at the glowing crystal above, rage boiling in his chest. "I don't want your choice. You will take it, or you will burn." The cracks widened. The chamber shook like the bones of a dying world. Lyra clung to him, tears glowing on her cheeks. "Elias, please, don't." He looked at her, then at the heart. The voice whispered again, soft as silk. "Take my power, save your kind, or lose everything." Elias clenched his fists, his heart pounding like a war drum. And then he stepped forward, toward the heart, asterisk each pulse of its blue light, slammed into his chest like a hammer. His breath came in ragged gasps, his body trembling as if the energy in the air was tearing him apart. Behind him, Lyra's voice broke the silence, soft but desperate. "Elias, don't, please." He stopped for a heartbeat, turned his head. She was on her knees, silver hair clinging to her face, black eyes glowing with terror and tears. "You saw what this thing is," she whispered. "It doesn't give. It takes. It will hollow you out until there's nothing left." Elias stared at her for a long moment. Every muscle screamed for him to turn back. Every instinct said this was wrong. But the images burned in his mind, Earth cities burning, children crying as alien fire fell from the skies, soldiers dying with no hope. He clenched his fists. "If that's the price to save them, I'll pay it." "No." Lyra tried to rise, but her legs gave out. She crawled toward him, her voice shaking with rage and fear. "You're human because you fight, because you feel. If you give yourself to this, you'll be gone." Elias looked away, his jaw tight. He didn't answer. The heart throbbed harder, its glow filling the chamber until there was no shadow, No air, only blue fire and the sound of a living drum. The voice came again, soft as silk, but sharp as glass. Take me, become more, save your kind. The floor split open, sending streams of energy rushing like rivers at his feet. The heat burned through his boots, crawling up his body. He staggered forward, his vision blurring. Lyra screamed, "Elias!" He turned just for a second and saw her tears cutting down her face, arms outstretched toward him. Something inside him cracked, deep and sharp. Then the voice thundered, shattering the thought. "Choose now." Elias placed his hand on the heart. The world exploded. Light surged through his body like a tidal wave of fire. His back arched, a roar tearing from his throat as every nerve burned with white-hot agony. His vision shattered into shards of blue and black. He could feel the energy ripping through his veins, flooding every cell, rewriting everything he was. "Elias!" Lyra's cry pierced the storm. She tried to reach him, but a wall of energy hurled her back like a ragdoll. She slammed against the stone, coughing blood, her eyes wide with horror as she saw him change. Elias floated above the ground now, his body blazing with light. The veins under his skin glowed like molten steel. His eyes burned brighter than stars, his breath roaring like a furnace. The heart's glow poured into him, feeding him until the chamber shook like the bones of a dying god. The voice whispered through the storm, "You are mine now." Elias's head snapped up, his face twisted in pain and rage. His voice was a broken snarl. "No, I'm still me." The energy tried to crush him, to strip away his will, but Elias fought back with everything he had, every memory of Earth, every laugh, every tear, every name of every soldier who had died while he lived. "You don't own me," he thought, his fury burning hotter than the blue fire ripping through him. The ground split wide, revealing a chasm of endless light and darkness. From it, the shadows rose again, thousands of them, screeching, crawling like living nightmares. They hurled themselves at Elias. He moved. One motion, and the swarm disintegrated. A shockwave tore through the chamber, hurling black fragments into the void. The walls shattered, towers collapsed, the ceiling split open to reveal a sky of pure blue fire. The entire city screamed as Elias unleashed his new power. He floated, down slowly, the heart crumbling behind him into dust. His body glowed like a blade drawn from the forge, his hair whipping in the storm. Lyra stared, her breath caught in her throat. "Elias?" she whispered, her voice breaking with awe and terror. "What have you done?" Elias landed softly, his boots cracking the stone. He looked at his hands, still shaking, still human, but burning with energy that hummed like a living thing inside him. He turned to Lyra. His voice was low, rough, but steady. "I did what I had to." The chamber roared as the ground cracked again, rivers of blue fire rushing toward them. The voice came once more, but weaker now, a whisper fading into dust. "The seal is broken. The war begins." The walls collapsed in a tidal wave of stone and light. Elias grabbed Lyra, pulling her close. "Hold on." He roared as the floor gave way. They plunged into the storm together, falling, burning alive. Asterisk stone towers crashed into the abyss like dying giants. Rivers of blue fire ripped through the ground, burning the ruins into ash. The heart was gone, shattered into dust, but its power thundered through Elias like a living storm. He clutched Lyra tightly as they plunged through the collapsing chamber. Her scream cut through the roar of destruction, raw and desperate. Elias twisted his body, shielding her as they struck a broken platform with bone-jarring force. He rolled, coughing, his armor cracked and smoking. Pain stabbed through his ribs, but the heat in his veins drowned everything else. It wasn't blood anymore. It was light. Lyra pushed up on shaking arms, her black eyes wide. "Elias!" Her voice trembled like glass. "You're glowing." He rose slowly, his boots cracking the stone. Blue fire crawled under his skin, burning along his veins like rivers of light. His eyes, she couldn't look away. They blazed like twin suns. The chamber shuddered as the sleeper's voice filled the air again. Weaker now, but still echoing like a storm. "You are mine." Elias clenched his fists. The energy inside him pulsed, hungry, trying to drown his thoughts in a flood of rage and hunger. His vision flickered, earth burning, alien fleets falling, his hands dripping with fire and blood. Power whispered in his mind, sweet and venomous. Rule, conquer, destroy. He staggered, gripping his head, teeth grinding. No, his voice was raw, torn by pain. "I'm not yours." Lyra crawled to him, grabbing his arm. Her hands burned against his heat, but she didn't let go. "Elias, fight it!" she shouted, tears streaming down her glowing cheeks. "Don't let it take you. Please, come back to me." Her voice cut through the storm like a blade. 4. A heartbeat. The rage faltered. He looked at her. Her face streaked with tears and blood. Her eyes wide, dark, desperate, pulling him back from the edge. He remembered her laugh in the dunes, the way she cursed his stubbornness, the way she trusted him when no one else would. He wasn't doing this for power. He wasn't doing it for himself. He was doing it for them. For her. Elias roared, his voice shaking the broken city. Blue fire exploded from his body, whipping through the air like lightning. The sleeper's voice screamed, a sound of rage and despair. "You cannot defy me? Watch me!" Elias bellowed. He hurled his hands toward the heart's shattered core, what was left of its power, burning like a dying star. The energy obeyed him, roaring from his veins like a tidal wave of light. The blast hit the core with a sound like the sky breaking. The entire city erupted. Stone towers crumbled. Shadows howled as they burned to nothing. The ground split wide, swallowing itself in a storm of fire and dust. The sleeper's scream tore the air, echoing into the void before fading into silence. And then there was nothing. No voice. No swarm. No chamber. Only darkness and the sound of Elias's own heartbeat. He collapsed to his knees, gasping, his body shaking. The blue fire dimmed, fading under his skin like dying embers. He felt hollow, weak, but still alive. Elias. Lyra's whisper broke the silence. He lifted his head slowly. She was kneeling in front of him, her hands trembling as they touched his face. Her black eyes shimmered with tears and blue light. You did it." He tried to smile, but it came out as a broken breath. "Told you. We both live." She let out a sound between a sob and a laugh, pulling him into her arms. He clung to her weakly, his forehead resting against her shoulder. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of their breathing, the warmth of her arms in the cold. Ruined. Then the ground rumbled. Elias lifted his head, eyes narrowing. Through the cracks of the broken floor, light poured upward, bright, fierce, alive. The heart was gone, but the power wasn't. It was spreading, rushing through the ruins like fire through dry grass. The voice didn't return. But Elias knew the truth now. The seal wasn't just broken. The war had already begun. Lyra followed his gaze, her face pale. "What happens now?" Elias looked at his glowing hands. The power inside him was quiet. For now, but it was there. A weapon. A curse. A promise. He rose slowly, pulling Lyra up with him. His voice was rough, steady, and cold as steel. "Now, we make sure Earth doesn't burn. Far above, the ruins cracked open, revealing a sky of endless stars. And somewhere in the void, something answered with silence that felt like a smile. Elias tightened his grip on Lyra's hand. "This isn't the end," he whispered. "It's the beginning." They walked into the light together toward a galaxy that would never be the same again. *The End.